There's a moment in every room when you realize who really holds the power. It's not the loudest voice demanding attention. It's not the person gesturing wildly, trying to prove their point. It's the one sitting back, watching, calculating, absorbing every micro-expression, every nervous laugh, every tell that reveals what people are actually thinking. While everyone else is performing, they're learning. While others are speaking, they're studying. And by the time the room empties, they know more about every person there than those people know about themselves. This is the power of silent observation. And if you master it, you don't just gain an advantage. You become the ultimate predator in any social situation. Not through aggression, not through dominance, but through something far more dangerous. Knowledge. Most people think power comes from talking, from being heard, from making their presence known. But that's amateur thinking. That's what weak people do when they feel invisible. Real power comes from seeing what others miss, from understanding the game while everyone else is just playing it, from reading the room so precisely that you can predict moves 3 steps ahead. Because here's what nobody tells you. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, the person who chooses to remain unseen holds all the cards. They become the observer in a room full of performers, the strategist among reactors, the hunter among prey. And once you understand how to weaponize silence, how to turn observation into information and information into influence, everything changes. You stop reacting to the world. You start controlling it. But this isn't about becoming antisocial. This isn't about hiding in corners or avoiding interaction. This is about mastering the art of selective attention, about training yourself to see what matters while others are distracted by noise, about developing the discipline to gather intelligence while everyone else is giving it away for free. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how silent observation transforms you from someone who gets played to someone who plays the game. How it turns you from a participant into a puppet master. How it makes you the person others fear without ever knowing why. Because when you truly understand how to observe, you discover something terrifying about human nature. People reveal everything. Their insecurities, their motivations, their weaknesses, their plans. They broadcast their thoughts through body language, through tone, through what they don't say as much as what they do. And most of them have no idea they're doing it. They think they're being mysterious. They think they're playing it cool. But to the trained observer, they might as well be holding up signs explaining exactly what they're thinking, what they want, and how to manipulate them. This is why silent observation makes you the ultimate predator. Not because you hunt, but because while everyone else is busy being prey, you're the only one who sees the entire ecosystem. Let me paint you a picture. You walk into a meeting. There's tension in the room, but nobody's addressing it directly. Most people would try to lighten the mood, crack a joke, or dive straight into business. But you do something different. You say nothing. You find your seat. You watch. Within 5 minutes, you've identified who's really in charge, who's threatened by whom, who's formed alliances, and who's about to be thrown under the bus. You see the micro-expressions when certain names are mentioned. You notice who avoids eye contact with whom. You observe who speaks first, who waits for permission, who's trying too hard to seem confident. By the time the meeting officially starts, you already know how it's going to end. Not because you're psychic, because you paid attention while everyone else was performing. That's the difference between reactive people and strategic people. Reactive people enter situations and immediately start talking, trying to establish their position, prove their worth, make their mark. Strategic people enter situations and immediately start learning. They understand that information is power, and power comes to those who see clearly, not those who speak loudly. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think observation means being passive. They think it means sitting back and letting life happen to them. That's not observation. That's just being a spectator. Real observation is active. It's predatory. It's hunting for patterns, weaknesses, opportunities that others miss. When you observe correctly, you're not just watching. You're studying human behavior in real time. You're cataloging information. You're building profiles. You're identifying leverage points. You're mapping the invisible networks of influence, fear, and desire that actually run every social situation. And once you have that map, once you understand the real dynamics at play, you can move with surgical precision. You know exactly what buttons to push, what words to use, what actions to take to get the outcome you want. Not through force, through understanding. This is why the most dangerous people in any room are often the quietest ones. They're not quiet because they're weak or scared or have nothing to contribute. They're quiet because they're gathering intelligence. They're building a complete picture while everyone else is focused on their small piece of it. Think about the most successful people you know. The ones who seem to effortlessly navigate complex situations. The ones who always seem to know what's coming next. The ones who make moves that seem obvious in hindsight, but nobody else saw coming. I guarantee you, they're masters of observation. They see what others miss because they've trained themselves to look for what matters. But observation without action is just voyeurism. The real power comes when you combine observation with strategic thinking. When you use what you see to make better decisions, form better alliances, avoid obvious traps, and create opportunities that others don't even know exist. This is what separates the predators from the prey in any social ecosystem. Prey animals are reactive. They respond to immediate threats, immediate opportunities, immediate stimuli. Predators are proactive. They study patterns. They understand behavior. They position themselves advantageously before their prey even knows they're being hunted. And in human social dynamics, the same principles apply. Most people are reactive. They respond to what's happening in the moment. They make decisions based on incomplete information. They let emotions drive their choices. They reveal their intentions before they act. But the silent observer? They're 3 moves ahead. They've seen this pattern before. They know how it ends. They know who's going to betray whom, who's going to fold under pressure, who's going to make the critical mistake. Not because they're fortune tellers, because they understand human nature better than most people understand themselves. This understanding comes from one simple practice. Instead of trying to be seen, try to see. Instead of working to be heard, work to hear what's really being said. Instead of focusing on your next move, focus on reading the board. Because every social situation is a chess game. And while most people are staring at their own pieces, trying to figure out their next move, the silent observer is studying the entire board. They see the patterns. They understand the strategy. They know which pieces are valuable and which are expendable. And when you can see the whole game while others are focused on individual moves, you don't just have an advantage, you have total control. But mastering silent observation requires more than just keeping your mouth shut. It requires developing skills that most people never even think about. Skills that turn casual watching into strategic intelligence gathering. Skills that transform social situations from confusing chaos into readable patterns. The first skill is learning to read micro-expressions before they become full emotions. Most people wait until someone is obviously angry, clearly nervous, or visibly excited before they notice anything. But by then, it's too late. The real information comes in the split second before the mask goes up. The tiny flinch when a sensitive topic gets mentioned. The brief tightening around the eyes when someone lies. The micro-smile that flashes before someone delivers bad news. These tells happen in milliseconds. But once you train yourself to catch them, you're reading people's thoughts before they've even decided what to think. You're seeing their genuine reactions before they've had time to manufacture appropriate responses. You're accessing the raw data before it gets filtered through social conditioning. And here's the thing about micro-expressions. They're involuntary. People can control their words, their tone, even their overall body language, but they can't control that first flash of genuine emotion. That's pure information. Unfiltered truth? And most people miss it completely because they're too busy thinking about what they're going to say next. The second skill is understanding vocal patterns beyond just words. Everyone focuses on what people say. Smart observers focus on how they say it. The subtle shift in pitch when someone mentions a name they don't trust. The way voices get slightly higher when people are lying. The micropauses before sensitive subjects. The speed changes that reveal comfort levels. Listen to how people breathe when they speak. Shallow breathing means anxiety. Deep sighs mean resignation. Sharp intakes mean surprise or concern. Most conversations are full of these vocal tells, but nobody's listening for them because they're too focused on formulating responses. You can map someone's entire emotional landscape just by tracking their vocal patterns over a single conversation. You'll know what topics make them uncomfortable, what subjects they're passionate about, who they respect, who they fear, and what they're hiding. All from paying attention to sounds they don't even know they're making. The third skill is reading group dynamics in real time. Every room has invisible hierarchies, unspoken alliances, and hidden tensions. Most people stumble through these dynamics blindly, wondering why they keep getting caught in crossfire they never saw coming. But silent observers see the battlefield clearly. Watch who looks at whom when someone makes a joke. Notice who waits for whose approval before speaking. Observe who mirrors whose body language. See who physically positions themselves closer to power and who keeps distance. Track who interrupts whom and who gets interrupted. These patterns reveal the real power structure, not the official org chart or the formal introductions, the actual influence networks. Who really makes decisions? Who's secretly allied with whom? Who's planning to make moves? Who's about to be sacrificed? Once you can read these invisible maps, you never walk into traps again. You see the ambushes coming. You know which alliances are real and which are performance. You understand who has genuine power and who's just making noise. But the most dangerous skill is learning to make people reveal themselves without them knowing they're doing it. This is where observation becomes active predation. You're not just watching anymore. You're hunting for specific information. And you're using carefully chosen triggers to make people expose what they're trying to hide. A single question at the right moment. A pause that makes someone uncomfortable enough to fill the silence. A comment that hits just close enough to a sensitive area to provoke a reaction. These aren't random probes. They're surgical strikes designed to extract maximum information while appearing completely innocent. The beauty of this approach is that people want to reveal themselves. Humans are desperate to be understood, even when they're trying to hide something. Give them the right opening, the right pressure, the right moment of connection, and they'll tell you everything. Not because you forced them, because you created the conditions where hiding became more uncomfortable than revealing. This is psychological archaeology. You're excavating layers of personality, motivation, and agenda that people have buried under years of social conditioning. But unlike traditional archaeology, you're doing it in real time, in living conversations with people who have no idea they're being studied. And once you develop this skill, once you can make people reveal their deepest truths while thinking they're just having casual conversation, you become something far more dangerous than loud. You become invisible. People forget you're even there because you're not performing like everyone else. You're just listening, nodding, asking the occasional innocent question. But behind that unremarkable exterior, you're building complete psychological profiles. You're mapping emotional triggers. You're identifying pressure points. You're cataloging fears, desires, ambitions, and weaknesses. You're turning every interaction into an intelligence-gathering operation. This is why silent observation makes you the ultimate predator. Not because you attack, because by the time anyone realizes you've been hunting, you already know everything you need to know about them. You've seen their tells, mapped their patterns, identified their vulnerabilities, and positioned yourself exactly where you need to be. Most people think predators are loud, aggressive, obvious. But the most successful predators in nature are the ones their prey never sees coming. The ones who study, wait, position, and strike with such precision that the hunt is over before it begins. In human dynamics, the same principle applies. While everyone else is roaring and posturing and demanding attention, the silent observer is learning everything they need to control the outcome, not through force, through information, through understanding, through seeing what others are too distracted to notice. And once you master this approach, once you learn to weaponize silence and turn observation into influence, you discover something profound about power. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the one who understands what every voice is really saying. That's when you stop being another player in the game. That's when you become the one who controls how the game is played. The transformation happens gradually, then all at once. You start noticing things others miss. The way someone's shoulders tense when a certain topic surfaces. How voices drop when specific names get mentioned. The split-second hesitation before someone agrees to something they don't want to do. These details pile up like evidence at a crime scene, painting a picture so clear it's almost disturbing. But here's what separates the amateur observer from the true predator. Amateurs collect information randomly, like tourists taking photos of everything they see. Predators hunt for specific intel. They know exactly what they're looking for because they understand what information has value and what's just noise. When you walk into any situation now, you're not just participating. You're conducting reconnaissance. Every conversation becomes a data mining operation. Every group interaction reveals alliance structures. Every meeting exposes who really holds leverage and who's just pretending to matter. And the beautiful thing, nobody suspects a thing, because while they're all performing their roles, competing for attention, trying to prove their worth, you're operating on a completely different level. You're the scientist studying lab rats who don't know they're being observed. This creates an almost unfair advantage. While others are reacting emotionally to surface-level drama, you're seeing the deeper currents that actually drive behavior. You know why people do what they do before they know it themselves. You can predict reactions, anticipate moves, and position yourself accordingly. But the real power isn't just in seeing patterns. It's in recognizing that most human behavior is scripted. People think they're being original, spontaneous, unpredictable. But once you study enough interactions, you realize everyone's running the same basic programs. The insecure person who overcompensates with aggression. The threatened leader who eliminates potential rivals. The ambitious subordinate who plays both sides. These aren't unique personality traits. They're behavioral templates. And once you recognize the template, you know exactly how the story ends. Not because you're psychic, because you've seen this movie before. This is when observation becomes prophecy. You don't just see what's happening. You see what's going to happen. The partnership that's about to implode. The project that's doomed to fail. The person who's about to self-destruct. All visible 3 moves ahead if you know what to look for. And knowing what's coming gives you options others don't have. You can position yourself to benefit from changes before they happen. You can avoid getting caught in other people's disasters. You can build relationships with rising stars before anyone else notices their potential. You can distance yourself from sinking ships while everyone else is still fighting for deck chairs. This is strategic positioning at its finest. While others are playing checkers, reacting to immediate moves, you're playing chess, thinking 5 steps ahead. Every decision you make is informed by information others don't have access to, because they were too busy talking to listen, too focused on themselves to study others. But mastery requires discipline. The discipline to remain silent when everyone else is sharing opinions. The discipline to ask questions instead of making statements. The discipline to observe patterns instead of getting caught up in individual events. the discipline to collect data when others are collecting attention. Most people can't handle this level of restraint. They need to be seen, heard, validated. They need to prove they belong, demonstrate their intelligence, establish their position. These needs make them predictable, and predictable people are easy to manage. You become unpredictable by refusing to play their game, by operating according to different rules, by valuing information over recognition, understanding over validation, positioning over performance. This makes you dangerous in ways they can't quite identify but instinctively fear. Because deep down, everyone knows when they're being studied. They might not be able to articulate it, but they feel it. That slight unease when someone listens too carefully. That subtle tension when someone asks the right questions. That growing awareness that they've revealed more than they intended to someone who revealed nothing in return. This discomfort is your confirmation that the strategy is working. When people start feeling exposed around you, when they begin choosing their words more carefully, when they hesitate before sharing information they would normally broadcast freely, you know you've achieved something rare. You've made them conscious of their own transparency, and consciousness breeds caution. Caution creates respect. Respect generates influence. All without you having to demand, argue, or prove anything. Your restraint becomes your reputation. Your silence becomes your strength. Your observation becomes your weapon. The final stage is when you realize you don't need to use what you know. The knowledge itself is the power. Knowing you could expose someone's weaknesses is more valuable than actually exposing them. Understanding someone's motivations gives you more control than manipulating those motivations. Seeing through someone's mask is more useful than ripping it off. This is the ultimate predator mindset. Not the need to attack, but the capacity to do so if necessary. Not the desire to dominate, but the ability to influence when required. Not the compulsion to prove superiority, but the quiet confidence that comes from superior information. People sense this capacity even when you never use it. They feel the weight of being truly seen, truly understood, truly known, and that feeling changes how they interact with you. They become more careful, more respectful, more aware that you're operating on a level they haven't reached. This is how silent observation transforms you from participant to controller, from player to puppet master, from prey to predator. Not through aggression or intimidation, but through the patient accumulation of knowledge and the disciplined application of restraint. In a world full of people desperate to be heard, the person who chooses to listen holds all the power. In a room full of performers, the observer controls the show. In a game where everyone's revealing their cards, the one who keeps their hand hidden always wins. That's the ultimate truth about power. It doesn't come from what you say or do. It comes from what you see and know. And the more you see, the more you know, the less you need to say or do to get exactly what you want. Silent observation isn't just a strategy. It's a superpower. And once you develop it, once you learn to see what others miss and know what others don't, you realize something profound about the game of life. You've been playing it wrong this entire time, but now you know better. Now you can play it right, and that changes everything.